In this short video, I'm going to show you how to create a table and a graph using Excel and paste these into Word and then format them for APA. So this is the Excel data that I exported from SPSS. And in this analysis, we requested frequencies for those participants who did and did not complete their shots. And so the first thing I'll do is I will delete this content on the top that I don't need. I really don't have to delete it, but it just gets it out of the way. I right click and I delete. So as you'll notice, I split the output to pertain to frequencies for those who completed their shots and those who did not. So they're presented separately, so we can see that output there. And I've already started doing some work on laying out this table. And you recall that I asked you in the assignment to think about that order of those variables. So this is the order of those variables that I chose, and I entered those into that analysis box just to make it easier to copy and paste that content into the table so I don't have to hunt around for it. It's in sequential order. So notice over here that we have here we have results for those people who completed their shots, both the frequency and percentages, and the same for those who did not complete them. And so this is how the table is laid out with these various categories over here. And you can see that I've copied and pasted most of these numbers in, and it's really very simple to do it. It's especially easier if you have them in the right order. So I'm going to go down now and copy in the information for insurance for those participants who completed their shots, which are right down here. So it's just as simple as doing a copy, and I'm using the keyboard commands of Control-C. And then I am going to copy them right up here. And so you can see I have my table all set up. So the next step is to copy and paste this table into a Word document. So I'm copying these cells, Control Copy, and now I am going to copy them in this Word document for which I've already created the title. And there's my table. So the next step is to format it for APA. I think one of the handy things to do is sometimes when you copy your table, it doesn't quite fit within the cells that you have. So I'm going to select the table. Notice how I'm doing that by clicking on this icon up here. And then I'm going to go up to Layout, and I'm going to choose Auto Fit. And that squeezes my table into the space up for my variables. That's just an easy way to format your table. So the next thing that I need to do is think about the typical way that an APA table is laid out. And in that table, you have, let's start with the borders. So in a typical table, you have borders, a border at the top, a line at the top, a line at the bottom, and a line that is underneath your headers. So to create those lines, I'm going into the design mode, and I'm first starting by just getting rid of all of the borders. Now they're all gone. And then I simply insert a border at the top. I add a border at the bottom. And then I add that next border that I want to have across underneath the headers. The next thing I'm going to do is arrange these headers so that they pertain to what they should. So we want these we want to merge these two cells here. And we did that by right-clicking and merging those cells. And we want these two columns to be the same width. So let's see if we can arrange those, right? So we want these to look quite similar. So that looks about right. And then we want these to be centered. And so I'm going to select this, and then under Layout, I can simply center these so that they're centered, and then I'm going to want to center the numbers underneath these as well. And notice how I'm picking this middle category, so they're not centered at the top. They're centered in the middle, and then I'm going to center these the same way. I'm going to have them left justified, but in the middle of that row. The next issue I have here is these rows should all be the same distance apart. And so I select all of these rows that I want to have the same width of the row. And I simply go up here and add a little bit of space. I say 3 is too much, 2 isn't enough. So I'm going to try going with 0.22. And so it spreads those apart enough so the eye can track across, but your table doesn't take up too much space. So I have almost finished formatting this table. The next part of formatting is one in which there are 2 ways to do it. And so I'm going to try doing it this way because it's not a large table. So I'm going to insert a column to the left, and I'm going to have that width be as narrow as it will let me have it. And that's as narrow as it will allow me to go. And then that lets me put this final line in under each of these categories, because the arrangement of headers should be such that there's a space between this. It shows that these are the main headers here, and then you have these subcategories down here. So this has created a graph or a table in APA format. And then the last thing that I want to do is add the sample size to these 2 different groups. So you've noticed I've inserted n equals above each one of them, and because this is a subgroup, these need to be a small n. So I'm changing that to a small n. And the sample size for those who did not complete their shots is 469, and for those who completed and those who did not complete is 944. So now you can see that we are conveying the frequencies and percentages, and we're telling the reader the sample size for both. We are also conveying to the reader these different categories and both the frequencies and percentages for each one. And you don't need to put that % symbol here because you've got it up here at the top.